Hello, passengers. Welcome aboard Long Walk Talks Lost. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley, and I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions. I'm joined tonight by my two co-pilots,
Robert Bradford
and Cara Hayes.
And we are going to be continuing our Lost Season 2 discussion with the next 3 episodes. Season 2, Episodes 4, Everyone Hates Hugo. Episode 5, ... and Found. And Episode 6, Abandoned. And before we dive in, let's talk about our themed food / we're not sponsored by them, but maybe we could be.
That'd be awesome.
supporting local.
Yes. In this case, if you've listened to this before, we like to try to theme our dinner selection around whatever batch of episodes that we are watching that week. So because we had a Hurley episode that deals with his job at the Cluckin Chicken. Somebody remember, what was the name of it?
Mr. Clucks?
Mr. Clucks. Have a Cluckin day. We decided to go with fried chicken from Lee's Fried Chicken in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and it was delicious.
So good.
Oh, yeah. Great potato wedges.
Indeed. All right, so kicking off the discussion with episode 204, Everyone Hates Hugo. It's day 46, and obviously it's a Hurley episode. And despite what the title of the episode says, everyone loves Hurley. You can never go wrong with a Hurley episode.
No.
Yeah.
We got a couple of notes here from Robert right off the top. Daniel Day Kim gets to speak full sentences in English for the first time.
I look back on that now, and I feel like that was the writers sort of throwing their hands up because they had to be like, there's got to be something we can do to use the fact that, Jin, the character, speaks Korean and a few words of English. Daniel Day Kim was born in the United States, and English is his first language. So there's got to be something we can do with that. But they can't do a surprise he speaks English reveal because that was Sun's whole thing. So I think, let's put it in a dream sequence. Just have it be really weird.
Yeah. I love it. I'm here for it because that weird-ass dream sequence also gives us the second note that you put here. We see Hurley in this nightmare that he's having, binging on food, including chugging from a milk carton. And this particular milk carton has a missing kid picture on the back of it.
I totally missed it.
Really? You didn't notice?
No, I don't know what I was looking at.
It's got Walt's face on it, which is your first indicator that, this is a dream or something horrible is happening.
Yeah.
Or both.
Just also, I appreciate that they got the idea that Hurley, as one of the bigger survivors, that he might have a reaction to the food out of the way in a dream, and then the rest of the episode he is genuinely just wondering about what he's going to do with it for everybody else. That there's when I watched that the first time, I was like, they're not going to make that the plot, are they? That's Hurley's his thing this episode? And thankfully, no, they did not.
But come on, it's a little insensitive if Jack is the one handing out jobs to people in the hatch to be like, and Hurley, you're in charge of the food.
Yeah. I mean, granted, we see some of the other jobs around, like we see Locke loading and checking all the guns, and I probably wouldn't have had Hurley do that even if I didn't know that he was cursed by numbers.
Yeah, true. I just can't be like, and you, the alcoholic, you're in charge of our liquor supply. Put a little bit more thought into that, Jack. Also, he totally could have assigned Kate to gun watch. She knows how to use 2 of them at the same time. We're just jumping around like usual here because in the B plot of the episode, we have the continuing misadventures of Sawyer, Jin, and Michael, which gives us some more of Sawyer's wonderful nicknames for his fellow survivors, which are a little on the nose and also not great. Not his highest caliber. At one point, he calls Ana Lucia Rambina.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
No. And then later, he calls her Hot Lips, which is a reference to the show MASH.
In his defense, he did get hit in the head with a rock very early on in the episode, so
by
he
her.
may still. Yeah, so it's one, an excuse for the low quality, and also 2, honestly nice that it's not meaner. He's also too scared to come up with a nickname for Mr. Echo, clearly, which who can blame him?
Yeah, I would be. Kara's got her own nicknames for Mr. Echo, and I don't know if they're appropriate to say.
They're not.
Yeah. So at one point, Hurley leads Rose to the to the bunker, and after all of last week, and also at the end of season 1, being like, yeah, there's a door to this thing. How the fuck could they possibly miss it? When you actually see the front door to the bunker in this episode, all three of us were like, oh yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
that's an easy door to miss.
It's like in a shadowy area behind some hanging vines that you have to press through. Like, yeah, this would be something that you just walked past without noticing twice.
Absolutely. And I didn't remember, like, for the life of me, I couldn't remember what the hatch door looked like. And when it showed up, it was like, huh, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. I would have expected a little bit more. It would have been nice to acknowledge that reaction for them to be like, well, there was a fucking door over here the entire time. Just some kind of,
One of us died going to get dynamite to blow the hatch open, and there was a door? Really?
You're telling me we could have walked a few hundred feet to the west and... Okay. So we're continuing on with the guest star train. We've had Saul Rubinek, we've had Katie Seagal, and now we're getting DJ Qualls, which makes me wonder, do modern audiences know DJ Qualls?
That guy was all over the place in like in the mid to late 2000s. Like, he was just, if you wanted like kind of the scrawny best friend or kind of the antisocial hacker, the whatever, he was your guy. He was everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see him pop up here as Hurley's best friend, and also to get us sued by New Line Cinema.
Sorry.
Just kidding. We don't make any money off of this podcast. Definitely not enough to get sued about it.
I will say DJ Qualls and Jorge Garcia have really good buddy chemistry. They play off each other in a very fun way that carries through this whole idea in the flashback of Hurley's fear that their friendship is going to change once it comes out that he's won the lottery.
Which he is correct about, because like almost immediately you can see the shift in the dynamic of their friendship, and it just makes me wonder why.
What? That's what I couldn't figure out.
You would think that there'd be, because he has this whole speech to Rose where he's like, once I give Steve potato chips, Charlie's going to be mad that Steve got the potato chip, but he'll be mad at me. That Hurley's fear is like, everybody's going to want something from me and they'll be mad that they don't have it. But it seemed like his buddy's just mad that, like, he didn't tell him that he got a winning lottery ticket last night, that he went 24 hours without telling him.
Yeah, like, that just didn't make any sense to me.
I really doubt that if either one of you came to me and said, hey, 24 hours ago I won the lottery, I'd be like, well, fuck you very much.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I win the lottery, I'm not telling anybody. But y'all will know.
Yeah, as the joke goes, there will be signs.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%. 1,000%.
I show up with an army of trained possums and raccoons as my backup. You will know.
Yeah.
I think we find out in a later episode, Hurley offhandedly mentions that the cute girl at the music store that he asks out as part of his, things I'll do before I'm rich, that they end up running off together. I think that his best friend hooks up with her, and that's why we never see either of them in Hurley's flashbacks again.
Oh,
Wow, that is an extra level of tragic.
I hate that.
I do too. You know what? Fuck you, DJ Qualls.
Yeah.
Whatever your character's name was.
I'm glad you're no longer working at that fast food establishment.
Yeah. And speaking of working at that fast food establishment, we get another older character pop up. We get to see Randy again.
Randy.
Formerly seen as Locke's boss at the box factory, and now he is working as the boss of Mr. Clucks.
I think this is situated before that, because the Locke's job was shortly before the flight, because it's what he's doing when he has the tickets for the walkabout. So I guess he moved out of fast food management to like corporate office management.
Yeah, box company management. Yeah, you're right. I got those reversed.
But that actor had just too good of a smarmy douchebag energy not to bring him back again.
It's true, and I mentioned it last week, but we're still too early on in the show's run to really start leaning into character connections, because if this had come up later in the show, they would have contrived a moment for Hurley to be like, when I was working at Mr. Cluck's, I had this really shitty boss named Randy. And Locke to be like, well, when I was working at the box company, I also had a boss named Randy.
I think it does come up in the last season in the Flash Sideways when when Locke and Hurley meet in that version of whatever we're calling it, that they do bond over having both worked for the same douchebag. But it never comes up on the island.
I don't remember that, but then again, I don't remember a lot of things about the last season. I'm very much looking forward to getting back into that. But we got a long way to go, like at least a year of just about. Next on my list of observations, we are still finding ways to perv on Evangeline Lilly, huh?
Yeah. Jack and Saeed are crawling around underneath, exploring the space under, seeing if they can find a way past that cement wall, and wouldn't you know it, Jack sticks his head up through the vent into the room where Kate is taking a shower.
Because of course.
Yeah. Any excuse to declothe Evangeline Lilly early on in the show's run. They finally put an end to it as the show went on, but I keep forgetting every time it happens. So later on as the episode goes on, we get to meet more new characters. Some of them, like we said about Mr. Echo, some of them fan favorites, some of them not so much. Of the tail section survivors, a.k.a. the tailies, we've met Ana Lucia and Mr. Echo. We finally get to meet Libby and Bernard, and we get to see Cindy again. Cindy, the stewardess from the flight that gave Jack his alcohol.
The reason he did not presumably get an infection when Kate stitched him up after the crash.
Mm-hmm. Even though I don't think those tiny little bottles of vodka had high enough alcohol content to really disinfect anything.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of magic television.
It is.
Islands.
They play fast and loose with how liquor works. In most fiction, like you can, douse somebody with in a movie or a TV show, you can douse somebody with your average bottle of whiskey and set them on fire.
Yeah, true.
Any rag, any bottle, instant Molotov.
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly how that works, but whatever. We already here, all three of us already know that we're going to love Bernard, and him and Rose are going to become one of our favorite things about this show.
God.
How are we feeling about Libby? What are our thoughts on Libby?
I'd forgotten how good of an impression she makes early on, because you've seen Ana Lucia, who's all, just kind of aggression and bravado, and you've seen Mr. Echo, who seems stoic, but very much, in control of himself. And Libby, you just have someone who looks like she is just terrified of every loud noise she hears. Like, she finds little moments to try to connect and say nice things, but just Cynthia Watros, I think, is the actor.
Yeah.
Tremendous 48 Days of Terror eyes on her.
Indeed. And we're not going to talk about Cindy because by the time these 3 episodes are up, she'll be gone for the rest of the season. She will pop up later, if I remember correctly. Isn't that right, Robert?
Yeah, we do eventually see what happened to some of the people who were taken by the others.
Yeah, they've just go and live in Otherville.
Yeah.
Otherville.
What did they call that? There was a name for it, wasn't there?
In the canon of the show, or just a fan nickname?
Oh, either.
I think Hydra Island is what they called the place across the water, but I don't remember if there was for that specific settlement.
Gotcha. Well, let's take a minute to talk about this note you put in here, Robert, about Bernard's face when he finds out that Rose is okay.
Yeah, because we've had a reminder, it was mentioned during the first season that Rose's husband was in the tail section of the plane, and while everybody assumed that the whole group of that died when the tail section broke off, Rose insists that her husband is still alive and just, quietly keeps talking about him in the present tense, saves a little chocolate bar because she knows he has a sweet tooth. And then, when Michael and Sawyer and everybody get with the main group of tailies, Bernard comes over and asks if there's a woman named Rose. And when he sees that they know her, he takes an extra second to kind of brace himself and asks, is she okay? Because for all he knows, their stuff has been just as bad. And when he finds out that she is, he just breaks down crying. And, oh, man.
Like Cara is about to do right now.
They haven't even had a scene together, and you're just immediately... Well, Katie, your wife was watching it with us, and she was just like, you've got to tell me that they get back together. You've got to tell me that they find each other again.
I didn't have it in my heart to fuck with her either. You're like, nope.
Yeah.
Next episode, Bernard's going to get ripped in half vertically by the smoke monster.
What's so crazy is that Sam Anderson, who plays Bernard, most of the other roles I know him from, he's playing very kind of like sleazy and untrustworthy characters. He played literally the head of Hell's law firm on Angel. On Justified, he was on there for a couple of seasons as one of the big guys in the local organized crime group. He's done a lot of evil white-collar characters, but as Bernard, he just comes off as just the nicest guy you could imagine.
Yeah. There's something about the way that I don't know, his look. Like, he doesn't, he just looks so precious. Like, I just want to, like, hug him and be like, it's okay.
Well, at least we all know we're going to have Bernard and Rose for a long time to come, all the way until the bitter end. And it was a nice setup early in this episode because we haven't seen Rose in a while. Since, like, mid-season 1, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't think she showed up in the finale or any of the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, maybe in like one of the crowd shots, but she in her interactions with Hurley, she brings up again that she still believes Bernard is alive, and like Robert said, at this point we have no reason to believe that until we meet him among the tailies. Great stuff. The last thing that not the last thing, next to last thing that I put down here. How did gas station guy know that was Hurley that had the winning ticket?
I wondered about that. I worked in a grocery store and I sold lottery tickets, but we never had anybody win a huge prize. But I assume they have some way to track like where a certain set of numbers are generated, presumably.
I think they do, but I also wonder if, like, maybe. Well, first of all, Hurley is quite distinct. And maybe that was the only lottery ticket he'd sold yesterday or something. Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying.
I mean, the real answer is it needed to be dramatic because Hurley had to be surprised that he was identified and without being able to, like, talk to his best friend beforehand.
Yeah.
And then seeing that look from his best friend that says, I fucking hate you.
Yeah,
we don't get to find out how Hurley's mom reacted when she found out. Although we do get a delightful scene of her just ripping into him in the most brutal way.
Yeah.
You think Jesus is going to come down and help you lose weight and get a girlfriend, Hugo? Is that what you think?
Maybe that's Jesus on the phone right now.
He wants to know what kind of car you'd like, Hugo.
Why do I feel like that's the kind of parent I would be? Like, I'd be that asshole mom. I just know it.
I mean, we're all already kind of that way with each other. Yeah, just imagine or not if we had children.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Oh.
Robert, you want to take these 2 that you had added here?
Yeah, so kind of going in the opposite order of how it's written, but it builds to Hurley feeling like he can't handle the responsibility of choosing who gets what out of the pantry and the hatch, so he gets one of the sticks of dynamite that they left after blowing up the hatch with some of it, and he takes it in and he's about to just blow up the whole pantry, and Rose has to talk him out of it. I've had days where I've thought, I mean, obviously I would never hurt anybody, but I was just like, if this building was empty and I could just drop a stick of dynamite behind me and not have to come back to it, maybe. It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does kind of get to a thing that they do a lot I feel like in this season in particular, where characters just build to really drastic solutions.
I kind of feel like after a certain amount of time on a desert island, that's going to be most people's reaction.
Yeah.
Is just jump to extremes.
I mean, I do that, and I'm not on a desert island. I have to be talked off the ledge at least twice a week.
Yeah, the amount of times that we've had to restrain you from blowing things up with dynamite, it's getting excessive, Cara.
You know what? Listen, one of these days, I'm going to do it.
And one of these days, I'm going to buy one of those bomb suits that the disposal guys in the Army wear.
Just hurt locker it up.
Exactly.
And then at the end, though, we do get a very lovely scene where Hurley figures out that, hey, this was food supposed to feed one guy for 3 months. There's 40 plus people out there. We can waste time rationing it, even though it's going to run out, or we can just let everybody have a night where we all just feast. And It's similar to him building the golf course. Just a reminder of what a natural Hugo is at taking care of people in a very emotional way, in a way that doesn't necessarily occur to Jack, the doctor who heals, or Locke, the hunter who brings food. That Hurley just, recognized that it's important for people to just have moments of joy and happiness, and it's yet another stone on the road that's going to take him to where he ends up in the finale of this show.
Yeah. It is kind of unexplained. Like, we know him and Charlie had that whole interaction about peanut butter early in season 1, and then Charlie brings it up again in this episode. So we know that Hurley's going to give him the peanut butter. But over the last 46 days, has Hurley learned, like, everyone's favorite foods? Because he just goes around distributing food to people, seemingly at random. I was just thinking, like, imagine getting handed a bag of nuts and being like, oh, actually, Hurley, I have you're already walking on to the next person.
This
okay.
Fatal allergy.
No, we'll just treat it like the elementary school lunchroom where it's like, I'll give you my Cheetos for your marshmallow bar.
There we go. Hurley accidentally establishes a bartering system on the island. The last thing I want to say, talking about the blowing things up with dynamite like you do casually. We really reach a point of diminishing returns on that dynamite. At the end of season 1, it was of paramount importance that you be very careful with it, and it blows a person up just from the slightest jiggle. Here, Hurley shows some caution with it, but is still able to rig it up. And then later on, like, the more we see of this dynamite, the less cautious people are with it.
Well, it stabilized once it was off the wrecked pirate ship.
They wrapped it in mud, and 12 hours later, boom, the mud does its stuff, and it's, well, not boom, the opposite of boom, but unboom.
Yes. Cara, I love that you're going to be the new, like, your job is just going to be to bullshit away all of these things. Did we have any more thoughts on the ill-named Everyone Hates Hugo? Because by the end, everyone still loves Hugo.
Yeah. His fear that people will turn on him is unfounded.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't bring up the, I guess you could call it C-plot of the episode, which is that...
C for Claire.
Oh, well, yeah. I wasn't even thinking about that one. I'm thinking of the bottle.
Well, she's the one who finds it, right?
Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's right, because she's going on her walk while Charlie is taking care of the baby. We're going to talk about it later, but this is already getting annoying.
Yeah.
Claire finds the bottle that people wrote messages in for Jen and Sawyer and Michael to take on the raft. And, of course, immediately jump to a worst-case scenario. They bring it to Sun because she's reconnected with Jen, and she decides to keep people from panicking. She's going to bury it. And as Robert pointed out, you can see when the camera is panning around her at the end as she's burying the bottle, her wedding ring is missing. So it cleverly sets up the next episode 205, ... and found, which is day number 47. And it is a joint Jen and Sun episode.
I think going forward, all of their flashback episodes are kind of mixed between the two of them. I think the season 1 episodes where we see one from Sun's perspective and one from Jen's perspective goes that way, but I think all the rest, they sort of share perspective.
It makes sense because, like, their individual episodes in season 1 still had overlapping moments, so just putting them together at this point in the show works thematically.
Apart from Boone and Shannon, I don't think anybody else has that tight of a relationship before the plane crash. So yeah, it would be weird to have their stories without them kind of circling around each other like that.
Very much so. This is all about the circumstances that led to them meeting and falling in love, and Jen's horrible, revelations about how people, upper class people, treat lower class people.
It's a good thing he didn't sign up for the Squid Game and after leaving that hotel, because I feel like that was kind of the track of class story that he was on. Yeah,
very much so. I mean, and it's not like his next job is going to go too much better for him. But anyway, he gets to meet Sun out of it.
But he gets the girl.
Yeah.
For a minute.
And Robert, you made an interesting note here that you've always loved the choice to make Sun's date with the matchmaker turn out to be a good guy.
Yeah, that it would be the easiest thing in the world to have him just be like a boorish jerk that Sun rolls her eyes at, and then yay, Jin is waiting around the corner for her. No, he's actually quite nice to her, and they bond quickly. And then we get a spot later in the episode where Jin is the doorman at the hotel that this guy's family owns. And, the guy comes up, valets his car and walks past Jin and asks Jin if he can borrow the flower he's wearing on his lapel. And, not just asks for it politely, but then when Jin gives it to him, says, "Thank you, Mr. Kwan," which I don't know how it translates in the Korean, but it sounds like he's being more respectful than he has to for somebody who's that far below him on the employment ladder. So it's, again, they have all these little moments to be like, oh, here's where you see. It's like, no, he actually seems like a good dude. The only reason it doesn't work with Sun is because he actually was in a relationship when they met, and this was just something he's doing to get his parents off his back.
Yeah, that is kind of shitty, though. He does sort of lead Sun on for a little bit there.
It's not quite clear how long they've been doing it. I would say that, yeah, that's probably something you should tell her, the first time or two once you realize that, okay, she's clearly getting into it. The one thing is I don't know that I necessarily buy him being like, oh, wait, you thought this was serious? Well, you were kind of telling her, but...
Yeah. Well, it's a nice... the show does a nice job early on this season reestablishing what we learned in season 1, which is that Yeonjun Kim has possibly the greatest subtle, facial reactions of any actor on this show, because she doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, but she has a whole lot of responses, and it's just beautiful to watch her react to things, like Hurley asking her, "Soul, is that in the good or bad Korea?"
Just the little pause she gives before the good Korea.
And then her entire interaction with Jack, in which he's trying to be helpful by explaining how he once lost his wedding ring and just went out and bought a replacement, and the two of them realizing at the same time,
that's a dumb story.
Yeah,
and also his marriage ended, so...
Well, there's that.
And also, Sun doesn't have that option in this scenario.
Well, yeah,
she can't go to the island jeweler and just get a new wedding ring.
Listen, if there was a hatch door that was right around the corner and they didn't find it, maybe there's a jeweler.
I would say in season 1, it would not have surprised me if Sawyer went through the fuselage and pulled off all of the corpses rings and jewelry. So she probably could have found.
Yeah,
he did.
That is
Sawyer
a good point.
I would have.
Opens a box and he's just got everybody's rings.
They don't need them.
I mean, true. Sawyer also doesn't need them.
No, but you know what? If they get off the island, he could sell them or something.
Now, see, that's old, unlikable Sawyer. We've moved on to new, likable Sawyer, at least for a few episodes here. It's about, mid-season where he gets back on board the shitty train for a little while?
We do see him a little bit at a low point when Michael goes running off into the other's territory to try to find Walt, and Jin tries to communicate to Sawyer that they should go look for him, and Sawyer kind of shrugs it off because they got to look out for themselves now. So he does have kind of a bit of a selfish moment there.
Yeah, a bit of a backslide. Let's talk about the appearance of the others in this episode. We didn't take a whole lot of notes here, but Robert, you made a good point here. There's the point where Mr. Echo and Jin are tromping through the woods going after Michael when Mr. Echo gets alerted to the appearance of the others, and him and Jin take shelter. And as Robert wrote here, Mr. Echo, one of the literally biggest badasses we've seen on the island, is openly terrified and hides with Jin as soon as he hears them coming.
It's that classic way of structuring your characters to establish the credibility of a threat by who's scared of what. I mean, kind of the example is in the first Matrix movie where Trinity kills a room full of police officers with no effort, walks out into the hallway, sees an agent coming, and runs the other way. And immediately oh, okay, so these guys are the terrifying ones. Same thing with Echo. We've already seen him, subdue Jin, Michael, and Sawyer with no trouble. Just before they go off, Jin tries to punch him to get out of the way so he can go after Michael, and Echo basically no-sells it and then headbutts Jin to the ground. And even for this guy, he's like, okay, they're coming. We need to be out of here. We can't be seen. And then that great shot from their perspective, looking through those shrubbery of just seeing the bare feet walking past. Like it's, I mentioned it a lot during the stuff with Ethan, but just how otherworldly, so to speak, they seem. Like they're not humans in the same way that that the characters we're following are. And we're going to find out that a lot of that is kind of theatrics on the part of the others, but it's so effective in these first few seasons at just making you realize how terrified like the tailies must be, even before we see the flashbacks to their side of it all.
Yeah, and that mystique is going to get sidelined pretty early on into the next season, where we find out that they've been living on Hydra Island, a.k.a. Otherville, with their record players and their book clubs and their brightly painted houses. As you put here in the notes, the decision to normalize them was an odd one, in my opinion.
Maybe unavoidable once they decided that we were going to have people just in the middle of the others for the start of season 3, but yeah, it's so effective the way they're presented now, and you just kind of hate that went by the wayside.
Yeah, and towards the end of the episode, we finally do find out. Well, with the audience, no, we picked it up because we knew about it, and Robert pointed it out. Her son eventually figures out where her ring is, or actually, it's Kate that notices it when they dig up the bottle. Once again, if we're not perving on Evangeline Lilly, we're giving Kate something weird and off-putting to do, where she just starts going through everyone's notes in the bottle.
So, did y'all follow the train of her logic? Because when Son asked her what she was doing, Kate was like, I never got to say goodbye, meaning to Sawyer, because she wasn't there when the raft was launched. But what does that have to do with going through the notes? It's not like she gave them one or gave one to Sawyer.
Or maybe why? And I mean, if she's thinking, did he include something about her? But why would he? Because
he was planning to deliver all those. He was back in the place he was leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. The decision here makes no sense. From a writing standpoint, from a character standpoint, it's just like, let's give Kate something else weird to do.
She's just a neb shit is what she is.
She's what?
A neb shit. She's nosy. She just wants to know what everybody else wrote. That's what I think.
Okay. I like that. I'd never heard that phrase before.
So it's a Pittsburgh thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Got it.
Oh, God.
Felt like just a reminder that there is a love triangle, that we've seen Jack kind of, as you said, perving on her in the shower. Reminder that she's got a smolder for Sawyer. And yeah, just, Sawyer has been, apart from Jack and Kate for most of the season. So yeah, just reminder of where the legs of the triangle stand.
Smolder for Sawyer, like we said last episode with Katie Seagal and poorly run grief counseling meetings. How it sounds like the name of a Fall Out Boy song. Smolder for Sawyer could easily be like off of a 2006 Fall Out Boy album. I love it. Any other thoughts or major takeaways from this episode? It's a great episode, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just another moving things along kind of episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed the section with Jen a lot, with Daniel Day Kim back to the point of only being able to communicate in a very limited way, but just the challenge as an actor to sort of work out what he's thinking and what he understands of the people around him. Really great work from Daniel Day Kim in keeping you along Jen's train of thought when he can't verbalize his thoughts in a way that anybody around him will understand.
That's a good point. And the flashback stuff really works great for Jen as well, because we've already come back around to liking Jen after the first half of season 1 really painted him as not so great of a guy. But it's a nice reminder in the flashback of where Jen really is at heart with the way that he interacts with the two people. He's told he can't let people like him into the building, into the hotel, meaning poor folks. And he lets in a father whose son needs to pee, who are clearly like disheveled, possibly homeless, and it gets torn apart for it and quits on the spot. And it's just that nice reminder of, that's why we love Jen. Good stuff. It's a spotlight episode for Daniel Day Kim and for Yeonjun Kim. Moving on to episode 206, Abandoned. This This is a Shannon episode.
A Shannon? No, the Shannon episode.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a
the-
good point.
yes.
The one and only Shannon episode.
That
It's a
I've been
shame
waiting
she
for.
never got another.
No, it's not.
Why didn't we get another Shannon episode, you
She
guys?
sucks.
Well, check.
She's
Is that
boring.
why?
Yeah.
She sucks, and also she is short a working heart at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, this one picks up on day 47 like the previous episode was and goes into day 48. We find out why Shannon is the way she is. Boone gets to come back for a little bit. I forgot the actor's name already. It's only been like 6 episodes.
Ian Somerhalder.
Ian Somerhalder,
That's
thank
it.
you.
We see him in Shannon's flashback to her father's funeral, and Boone arrives as an off-screen voice saying, "Death sucks, doesn't it?" before Shannon turns to see him, which was a very fun, cheeky way to reintroduce him after his death.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in this episode, so let's get the Sawyer's nickname thing out of the way. Who did he call Ponce de Leon?
Ana Lucia.
Yeah, Ana Lucia.
Okay, all right. So he's just constantly coming up with new nicknames for Ana Lucia. I'd forgotten. I wrote it down, but not who it was referring to. Speaking of Ana Lucia here, I wrote down, with Shannon on her way out the door, Cara's hate torch has been passed to Ana Lucia.
Yes.
You got a new person to hate for another, 17 episodes?
Yeah.
Less than that, 16?
I mean, it's less than I got with Shannon.
It's true.
So, you
Yeah.
know.
And after that, are there any more characters that you just outright can't stand that you remember?
Not that I remember. Those were the two biggest. But we'll all be surprised.
You got
if
the
I-
ones like Anthony Cooper who are deliberately loathsome, like they're on there and just, to be jeered at. But yeah, I think after that they've kind of shaken off the unlikability weight from the cast mostly.
Yeah, very much so. Robert, why don't you take this next point that you wrote down?
So it's interesting that one of the reasons that I think Ana Lucia does start to come off really unlikable is that we just see her in just kind of snap at everybody mode, that her way of communicating is just like, do this, let's get moving, let's keep going, come on. And it's kind of an interesting contrast to what we saw in the first season, where Jack's leadership among the survivors kind of just happened almost against his will, that their first concern after the crash was people are injured, they need treatment, and here's the doctor who runs around and saves everybody that can be saved. So yeah, people naturally defer to him. And then for the tailies, we'll get into it more, but they had a threat. As Ana Lucia tells us, they came the first night we were here, and then 2 weeks later they came back and they took more and more people. And so as a cop with a threat, Ana Lucia's way of dealing with that is, okay, I'm going to crack down, I'm going to be just assertive and make sure that everybody knows what I need them to do. And that does not come off as likably as Jack's leadership in season 1, that we just see her as just kind of keeping everybody in line more than leading.
And it doesn't help that we've already seen Sawyer clash with authoritative figures already in season 1. He didn't do too well with Jack. He really didn't do well with the Australian government when they deported him. So putting him up against an actual cop here, they're not going to get along. But by now we like Sawyer, so fuck you, Ana Lucia.
Yeah, not to mention, she was so skeevy in the airport with Jack. Like, hi, random stranger. I would like to boink you, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink.
No.
I'm gonna drink some straight tequila and start hitting on you.
You remind me of the drunk old dude I was driving around for a while, but in a more, screwable way.
Yeah. Weird stuff. But that's not the only weird thing about the episode. The whole
mean?
thing is an exploration of why Shannon is the way she is. And for the most part, I really think this works. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I like the story that we get for Shannon here, but it leads to some maybe intentional, maybe unintentional creepy moments. At one point, she remarks to Boone about her stepmother, Boone's actual mother. She resented my relationship with him, referring to her deceased father, Adam Rutherford. And as Robert has pointed out, Shannon and her stepmother look a lot alike.
Tall, willowy blondes with kind of like pulled back hair. Yeah.
Angular faces. It's kind of an unsettling line.
I think it's more, I think, to highlight the evil stepmother kind of a thing.
Right.
Because, of course, as a stepmother, you obviously hate the biological children of your spouse. Just naturally. That's the rule.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
Yeah, our only glimpse of Adam Rutherford alive is those few seconds when he's in Jack's ER. So we have no idea what his relationship with Shannon was like, but it does not seem like they were batting high with the functional relationships in this family.
No. Well, so the very next note, let's talk about it. Shitty parent watch. We've got a lot of them on this show, but up to this point, it's mostly been dads. We had a whole shitty dad alert going on throughout season 1. Now we're getting some shitty moms. Because in the first episode, Hurley's mom got a little sassy with him. It's hard to call her like a shitty parent, but
it's tough love, but it's very, very, very tough love.
It is. She threw a lot of shade his way. In the last episode, Son's mom was very insistent that she get married.
Because how could you not find a husband when you went to college?
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it.
She was going to get her MRS degree.
Lord.
Yeah, the old spinster. And now we get shitty stepmom. Does shitty stepmom Rutherford actually get a name? Or Carlisle, I guess.
I want to say Boone dropped her first name at some point during his flashback episode when he talked about her as like being this big shot in like wedding planning or something.
Yeah.
Very memorable, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really matter. What we need to know about a shitty stepmom, Carlisle Rutherford, is that she inadvertently sets off this chain of events like we talked about last week that ends with Boone and Shannon boinking and ending up on the island by cutting off Shannon's inheritance, which he didn't really have because, hey, it turns out having a will is important. Speaking of which, I think I'm going to go home and establish a will.
Couldn't hurt.
No.
The way we find this out is Shannon's roommate, or Shannon finds out that her rent check is bounced, and her roommate gives the great reaction line, "But you're like rich."
Yeah.
Which,
just in case the audience forgot.
Yeah. Very much a story of basically Shannon having it laid out for her just how low everybody else's expectations of her are, and then kind of, as we're going to see in Boone's episode, she is going to live down to them. That she's going to be like, all right, this is the way you set up for me to do it, so all right, that's what I'll do.
Yeah. It's a weird decision here. They did the same thing with Ian Somerhalder, giving him time to shine in his episode before they killed him off. And by give him time to shine, I mean gave him an episode in which he gets to sleep with his stepsister. Here we get kind of a more sympathetic story for Shannon that really should have come earlier in the show's run, I feel.
I may not have hated her as much.
Exactly. Shannon, at one point, before she was screwing dudes to extort money out of her stepbrother, and just generally acting shitty all the time, had dreams and aspirations. She taught ballet. She wanted to join the Martha Graham School of Ballet. She wanted to move to New York and be an artist. And her stepmother kind of beat that out of her, metaphorically.
And not even in a, I'm going to give you a job so you can work and do something else, but just a, I'm cutting you off, good luck with everything.
And then, like, almost as if she expected it to happen, she gives her the extra fuck you by bringing Boone out of New York to L.A. because Shannon, even after being turned down, like after losing her inheritance, still had the option of moving to New York and living with Boone, who had more than enough money to support her. No, shitty stepmom Rutherford Carlisle brings Boone all the way back to Los Angeles to work for her just to spite Shannon one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you, stepmom.
You do feel for her. It is a great clarifying episode for how she came to be the person that we met on the island.
And hate.
And hate. But hey, she gets to spend some time in Saeed's sex tent.
Oh, God.
There should be a little TM up there for trademark. Saeed built a fuck hut.
I hope Saeed can get his deposit back, since it's only going to get used once.
Well, he made a deposit.
Oh, God.
And he's not getting it back. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was very blue of me.
I'm not a firearm owner, but for those in the recording studio who are, have you ever kept your gun on you so that when your partner and you are undressing, they can be all like, "Oh, what's this?" And you can be like, "Oh, I forgot I was carrying that." Because Saeed pulls that move when he's with Shannon.
I mean, I don't carry a firearm often enough to where I'm going to forget that I have it. I can imagine maybe when it's like Saeed was in the military. He's going to be used to carrying firearms. So maybe it makes more sense for him than it would for, say, Jack, who is never going to not be aware of the gun he's holding.
Oh, I don't think Saeed actually forgot. I think he correctly estimated that Shannon would be very turned on by realizing that she was undressing an armed man.
She does have a thing for the bad boys, apparently. And her stepbrother.
Ugh.
Look, we only get to do that bit, Lost, the Step Family edition, for the rest of this episode. It's coming to a conclusion very shortly. But all this happens just so that we can all feel bad when Shannon gets shot at the end of the episode. And
which is a very shocking moment. Like, it's not... you can see how they're setting it up in retrospect, but when it happens, oof.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that, in retrospect, knowing it's coming, you spend the whole episode like, yeah, okay, I know what they're setting up here. As a first-time watcher, though, they've already spent so much time on Shannon, and even this early into the season, like, she's gotten the whole, I'm seeing Walt, soggy Walt out in the woods thing. And now she is just kind of unceremoniously shot. And the episode does leave it kind of ambiguous as to whether or not she's going to die or if somebody's going to punch her in the chest until she comes back to life.
Sawyer's going to dig the bullet out with his bare hands.
2 fingers.
Yeah, just like Saeed did earlier. I'm so sorry. Robert, you got a great note here if you want to talk about this one.
Yeah, so she decides that she's going to prove that she's not crazy when she's having visions of Walt that nobody else has seen. So she tries to get Vincent to sniff something out of Walt's luggage and then lead her to Walt in the jungle. Saeed points out everything that's wrong with that plan, which understandably does not calm Shannon down. So they're deeper in the jungle. It's raining. She slips and falls in the mud and just shouts, "Do not help me up," to Saeed. Which is one of my favorite things to do for a character who is just at their complete wit's end.
Yeah, same. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Cara, but women love being told when their plans are incorrect, right?
Oh, yeah. It's
like
the best.
It's like your favorite thing.
Absolutely. I look forward to it every day.
Yeah.
She does get the satisfaction of knowing that she was right, because she and Saeed do both see Walt out in the jungle, and she confirms that Saeed sees him. And in fact, Saeed is so shocked by it that when Shannon goes running off after, it takes him a second to get up and follow.
But her plan was still stupid.
Yeah.
Her plan was still stupid, and in true Shannon fashion, she died because she didn't listen. Walt is clearly shushing her, and she decides to scream and go running off. So the big reveal of the episode is twofold. One, that Shannon got shot. Two, she got shot by Ana Lucia, which wouldn't have happened if she hadn't gone running into the woods screaming while the tailies were on high alert.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, Cindy has just disappeared. They've started to hear the whispers, and I think the last thing we see of them before that happens, it's a cut to commercial of Ana Lucia just shouting, "Run," to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so when somebody comes running out of the jungle, she uses the last bullet of the gun she has, and to her credit, hits center mass. It's a good shot.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the B plot of this episode, which is the tailies trying to get Sawyer, who is in dire condition, over to the A-Team's camp.
Speaks well of Michael that he, after knowing that Sawyer was ready to leave him behind, he puts his foot down and insists that they build a stretcher to carry him.
Yeah. And getting Sawyer up that hillside does not seem like something I would want to participate in.
No. I kept thinking, would that work? Like, is that possible?
Well, Michael was an architect, remember? If anyone's going to know how to build a stretcher with some twine and four...
Oh, I just meant how getting him up that
it looked uncomfortable as shit. Like they were folding themselves into pretzels on the side of a hill trying to pass the stretcher.
Yeah, but like would you be able to, a dead weight... I mean, what do we think? He might weigh 150 pounds, 160? I don't know what people weigh.
He's a big dude. I'd probably put him in the, like...
180?
180 to 200 maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, I could not... I don't care how I bend to myself. There's no way I could lift and push or pull. Like, that's just not happening.
Well, Cara, you're underestimating the power of the human spirit.
Am I?
No. Like, she's got... like, obviously, Echo is muscle bound and oily.
And Jen and Michael are both in reasonably good shape.
Yeah, and Ana Lucia was a cop. And in fiction, cops are always in good shape, unless they're bad guys, in which they're not. But she's also got Bernard and Cindy, right before she disappears, who are not in the condition to be hauling a grown man up the side of a hill.
No. It just bothered me.
But it's during this endeavor of getting Sawyer up the hill that Cindy goes missing, and I like to imagine the others were like lurking in the woods watching. They see Cindy at the bottom, and they're like, "Well, we could wait until they make camp and come in through the cover of night and pick them off, whoever we want." Or we could just get this one woman that's standing here in the open while all of her friends are distracted. Let's just go ahead and get her.
It may not have even been an abduction. They could have just walked up and been like, "Hey, come with us. You don't have to help with all that."
Yeah. We'll put you up in a house and you don't have to carry a man up a hill.
Come with us.
Listen,
we've got
I would have taken that deal. Are you kidding? What? I'm sorry, a house? And I don't have to carry that guy? Yes, please.
Wow, and that's how Cara became an other.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at the end of the episode, it is time, at least for a little while, to say goodbye to Maggie Grace, and we'll see in a few years in the movie Taken.
Where she plays the teenage daughter of Liam Neeson, which was weird because I was like, Lost was what, 5-6 years ago, and she was playing a woman in her 20s? This is jarring.
When did the first Taken came out? Like 09, 08?
Somewhere, 2007, 2009, somewhere in there. It was...
Robert, vamp with the last two notes that you took here while I look up when the first Taken came out.
So I've done it a couple of times, but I always like to talk about the closing images of Lost because this show was so good at giving you that beat that just made you so mad when you were watching it live that you'd have to wait 7 days. And in this one, you have Shannon getting shot, falling into Saeed's arms, and he holds her, and he's sobbing and just in grief and horror, and he looks up, and that's when we see Ana Lucia holding the gun, and Michael and Jen looking horrified. And then, without the sadness or the grief going away, but like Saeed's face just starts to harden, and he just starts to climb to his feet right as we cut to the Lost ending. And you're just like, oh, I would not want to be the person responsible for what just made him feel that way. So that's just another great outro for the show. The other thing I just wanted to mention was, we talked about it a little earlier, Charlie has been kind of a douchebag all through season 2, and it hits a new high point, though not the highest point it'll get to, where he starts lecturing Claire about what a bad job she's doing taking care of Aaron. And when Locke comes over to talk to him, Charlie just decides to be like, "Did you know she was going to give the baby up for adoption?" Which, as it happens, Locke did know. Claire had told him, but if he hadn't, what a crappy thing to just share specifically to make a point about what a bad parent Claire was going to be. Like, yeah, she was a young, single, like, poor girl. Like, she didn't think she'd be in a great position to raise a kid.
Yeah, we've also been given zero indication up to this point that Charlie has any experience with children, much less newborns at all. Like maybe if in his episode we had seen, oh, after Liam, quit the band or whatever, and got clean, him and his wife had a kid, and we see Charlie interacting with the baby and having to, hold it and feed it, whatever. No, Charlie just somehow between seasons became a wet nurse. Knows all about like swaddling babies and how to feed them and determine their moods and all this stuff. And I mean, we saw some of that at the end of the first season where he's like, trying to figure out how to get the baby to sleep and everything. And now he's just become super dad.
Super annoying dad.
Super stepdad.
I think there is some psychology to that, that for a lot of recovering addicts, that tending to pets or plants is sort of a way that you kind of focus yourself when you're dealing with recovery, with this absence of this other thing that's been in your life. It's also apparently something they caution against because like diving into a relationship, trying to like become a parent when you're not ready at that stage of recovery can also be a path to relapse, which, I mean, hint for where Charlie's story is going. But yeah, in that conversation when he tells Locke that Claire just isn't used to handling responsibility, it's hard not to feel like it's deserved when Locke politely reminds Charlie that he's a recovering heroin addict talking about responsibility.
Yeah. Because it's not too much longer now before it is this season where Charlie kidnaps the baby to baptize to baptize him, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think we're 4 or 5 episodes from that.
Okay. With some, if I'm remembering correctly, with some encouragement from Sawyer, we get the backslide of 2 great characters throughout this season.
And I did not remember this Charlie.
Right.
Like, because I loved him so much, not Penny's boat, like that whole soul crushing thing. I did not remember him being this dickish.
Yeah.
It felt like they weren't quite sure where to sort of slot him in things, because he has a line where he complains to Hurley about being left out of the A-Team's adventures as just kind of a nod to the fact that he was one of the central figures in the first half of the first season and has kind of become more in the background. And it does sort of feel like they're trying to decide like where he's going to be. Like a lot of season 3, once they decide where his story is going, the character clicks back into focus and they send him out with a great exit. But yeah, he's got some rough stuff ahead of him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it. Also, I looked it up. Yeah. Taken came out in 2008. So 3 years later, Maggie Grace was still playing a teenager. And fast forward another 4 years, she does a movie called Lockout with Guy
Pearce,
Guy
right?
Pearce, yeah, thank you. In which she is also still playing the teenage daughter of the president.
And she's caught in a space jail.
She was born in 1983.
Yeah, she is 3 years older than I am.
Wow.
Hey, she pulled off looking like a teenager for a solid 7 years,
Yep.
8 years. So, you know what? Good for her.
Oh, yeah,
Good for her.
absolutely.
Did we decide? Oh, yeah, we did decide.
So, yeah, we did talk about our meal for next time, because one of the things that happens during Jin and Echo's romp through the jungle is they come upon a corpse of a man who's been impaled by a wooden stake. And Echo says his name was Goodwin. Jin points and says, others? And Echo nods, but it's not clear exactly what he means by that.
So we're eating people.
So yeah, we're all going off into the jungle and coming back with a carcass.
I was just going to hit the local graveyard,
Yeah, they call it long pork.
We are going to...
Not that.
Now I want to go back and watch NBC's Hannibal again.
Oh.
So because we are going to find out the backstory of what happened to Goodwin and how he came to be impaled, we will be enjoying kebabs during our next viewing.
Well, because all three of us have a very morbid sense of humor. I'm literally looking forward to like some meat skewers.
Meat on a stick, always good.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, between now and then, Robert, if people want to follow you online, you're now on Blue Sky, right?
I am stepping back from social media for a little while. Just some stuff's been going on in the real world, and I think it's put me in kind of a depressed headspace. So I'm gonna be off the socials for a little bit.
That's fair and smart. You're smarter than I am. Cara, what about you?
I just lurk. I want to watch other people's shit. I don't post hardly anything.
Gotcha.
I'm not worth it.
Gotcha. Like a lot of people, I've spent the last 3 days being outraged by ongoing events and not keeping my mouth shut about it on social media. So if you want to follow me online, you can do that on Instagram at DBHensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on. And I hope you have a clucking good day.